all the waitresses go in the back, and they just, they've all got, bras on and stuff, but, they just rip their shirts off, and it basically becomes just like a nightclub, like right at 9 o'clock, right as everyone started going to the Wild game for that Avalanche series a couple years ago. It was great.
Did you go to a hockey game when you were in Denver?
No, this was in St. Paul, Minneapolis a couple years ago. Oh. But we asked for like, hey, we can't go because the tickets are too expensive. Everyone wanted to go, but we said, what's the next best thing? Like, oh, you got to go to this one bar. You got to go to this one bar. So, good time.
Definitely.
I spent all my time asking all the Wild fans if they had a fight song for their team, and I was not getting many friends around the area. Dan, they did not appreciate me asking if they had a fight song for the Wild.
That's awesome. That'd be a great place to see a game.
Oh yeah,
it's a nice arena. Love it, and it's great for concerts too. Just fantastic.
Nice.
Yeah, if you want to see a concert, that's a place to do it. Target Center, where the Timberwolves play, it's horrendous. The acoustics are like the worst ever. You want no part of that. I went and saw. I've seen several shows there, and basically, unless you're down on the floor or in the first couple rows of the lower section, you can't even tell, like that it's the band you came to see.
But the hockey stadium much better.
What's that?
The hockey stadium much better.
Yeah, the hockey stadium is fantastic. The acoustics are there. Good there. I've sat in upper deck, lower deck, right off to the side of the stage, right in front of the stage, and it's always great.
How do they do there for hockey? Like with tickets, they're kind of like up here, aren't they? They must sell out a lot, no?
Yeah, it's a pretty hot ticket. So I mean, even though the Wild haven't been that great, they still sell the tickets. So
it's like the Leafs.
Yep.
A lot of promise every season, and we'll see. First year they play Montreal since 1979 in a playoff series, so that'll be popular up here north of the border.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You guys ready to kick this or what?
Let's do it.
Yeah, do it.
Let's rock.
All right, guys. If you're serious about fantasy football, you're listening to this right now, go smash the subscribe, smash the like button right now. Make sure you tune in, man. And we got serious guests, past, present, and future. Tonight, we got 4 goats talking rookie drafts. What is it, Theo? Mining gems?
Mining gems and avoiding landmines.
I love it. All right, guys, let's kick it. Let's have some fun.
District, the Pope listens. Dynasty, our religion, for the blokes missing. On all of these trades, on all of these plays, on all of these grades. By the end of the day, y'all getting played. So, what you gonna do next? Try to fill up that flex? Send the homie a text? That trash offer's the best? You try to make it complex, then they text you back. Now all of a sudden, they don't make any sense. Broaden your horizons, boy. Dynasty's not for the Simons, boy. These trades not for consignment, boy. Respect your opponent, y'all some piranhas, boy. This my advice from me to you. Open up your cute little podcast queue. Search up GOAT District, my dude. Pop it in your ear, man. Y'all know what to do. It's and I always be traded. And I always be traded. And I always be trading. Y'all try to betray them, but first you gotta bait them. Fish.
What is up, Fantasyland? Welcome back to the GOAT District, and I'm here with 3 serious GOATs. I mean, guys, we always bring on the best guests. Theo has been bringing in some killers lately. I mean, guys, if you're new, this is the first time you're watching the show, make sure you go check out the last few episodes, whether we're talking rookie drafts, Dynasty, redraft even, from The Athletic, Chris Vaccaro, who's the gentleman from Larky?
Josh Larky.
Josh Larkey. For some reason, I always want to call him Justin. I don't know why. But anyways, I mean, every time I hear that guy speak on the mic, man, I just the goodness that guy brings, it's such a different and fresh angle that he brings it. And he did that on our show. So go check that out. But the reason I bring that up is, I mean, let's face it, guys, we got 4 winners on one of the hardest sites to play fantasy football right here in the G unit. Lucky us. So tonight we figured we've just done a bunch of rookie drafts, all 4 of us, some together, some separate, some, a lot of them on FFPC, which we'll talk about tonight, some on MFL. So we're just going to have like a little roundtable powwow right now, talk about what we've done, what we've observed, things we regret, things we're proud of, trades we made during the drafts, just thought process behind certain moves. I know Dan and I, we co-own some teams. You two actually co-own a Triflex team together. You guys did a startup draft there. So we can take this any way we want. We've got certain, topics that Theo put together nicely that, so that we don't get too out of control. But why don't we just start, like, give a quick idea, remind the people, maybe give an idea of what kind of volume you're doing, how many drafts rookie drafts you've done, that kind of thing. Formats, kind of your deets. Give them your deets. We'll start with Theo, man.
So I'm in quite a number of dynasty teams in FFPC, and this year I aggressively tried to get draft picks. Starting last off season up into the season, I had a couple of productive struggle teams where I was cashing in, a couple teams where I made aggressive moves. And as we started getting closer to the draft, I tried to get as many top 4 picks as possible, and I tried to trade into the back half of the first round, and I was successful doing so. So, I mean, for me, I had a lot of draft picks this year, and I'm pleased about the way they went. I think that there's a couple of potential difference makers, for this format, and I was able to get quite a number of them on my team. And I also think that I took advantage of the depth at wide receiver. There was a couple guys at the end of the first round, beginning of the second round that I was able to add that, I think could make a real impact. Much like we saw with last year's wide receiver class, I think we could see that once again. So, I have a lot of teams, and I added quite a lot of rookies.
Nice.
Yep.
Andrew.
Yeah, here in a handful of FFPC, I think the key number for me, and Theo alluded to it, and I can't wait to talk about it later because I think I'm a little bit contrarian to the rest of this crew. I think. But the key number for me was I had 3 102s. So I can't wait to talk about that a little bit more. And then all of my MFL leagues, for whatever reason, they haven't kicked off yet. So looking forward to getting those started a little bit later. But really looking forward to talking about the 102 pick as we progress through this pod today.
Nice. I had one 102 myself, and Dan and I shared. Dan and I did we did a couple startups where the draft picks were involved in the startup. And we made a point of getting some of those early picks. And I think we did not only a nice job, by doing that and giving us a lot of flexibility with our rosters by having those picks. But what we did with them, I think, we'll go through it, but we're pretty happy with it. Dan, what do you think?
Yeah, definitely. And, I ended up with quite a few 101s actually, because I bought into some teams that had 101s, orphans, and I had a couple teams that we had orphans, or we got that number 1 pick on our own, and weirdly enough, I probably didn't do what most people would expect to do with the 101, but we can talk about that a little bit. But basically, I traded almost all of them away. So that was kind of how I went. And I had like Theo, I had a bunch of teams that had picks lower in the first round, or I moved up to get into the bottom of the first round, early second round, and try to snipe off a few of those receivers that I like.
It was very Jerry Maguire of you. I didn't do what everyone thinks I was going to do. 101. Love that.
It is what it is. I mean, it wasn't I didn't necessarily intend to trade them all off. It's just what ended up happening because, certain opportunities come your way, and there were certain other leagues where I was aggressively trying to make a deal because I had a certain player in mind, and so sometimes things just happen.
So, I mean, the first point that Theo has on here, I think, is a nice place to start because I think this guy coming into the draft was a big topic, especially like tight end premium leagues, which we see on the FFPC. And as much as I talk about not drafting rookie tight ends, Dan and I may have gotten ourselves some Pitts action, but we'll get to that after. Andrew, I'll go back to you first. Where are you on Pitts? Like, is he someone that you were targeting? You said you had a 102 in some spots. Is he someone you avoided? What's your thought on him and maybe rookie tight ends in general?
Yeah. Well, let me start with rookie tight ends in general. I learn no lessons from year to year. At least I think I do in the offseason. I'm like, I'm swearing off rookie tight ends. They never return value. I'm moving on. I'm going to know better once I get to the rookie draft. And then I just see them staring there. And I can't give them up. Now we'll talk about like, the rookie tight ends outside of Kyle Pitts later. But let's talk about Kyle Pitts. Had 3 102s. I through the offseason was not thinking about Kyle Pitts. I think in my mind, especially pre-draft, I was thinking Najee Harris. I was thinking Travis Etienne. I think the 3 spots that I had the 102, they were RB needy teams for sure. Fact. As the offseason progressed, I did try to make moves. I mean, Theo alluded to it. It ended up kind of crystallizing to this. You got to get in the top 4. You got to get 104. There was one draft talking about trades where, it's on me. A new owner came in and I said, hey, for the 104, I'll take your 109 and 112. Sat on it, didn't make the move. Kyle Pitts' pro day comes out. I try to make the move. I say 109, 112. I'll give you 104. He says no. Okay. What about 109, 112 and my next year's first rounder? Hey, I'm willing to pay the iron price. I don't mind. I'll go get my, effing guy. Said no. So obviously, I mean, Theo mentioned it. Like it kind of crystallized. I think everyone thought Najee, Chase, Etienne, Pitts. You got to be in the top 4 if you want Pitts. I think everyone's kind of like penciling Pitts in maybe, but 103, 104. So, anyways, I say this for the iron price purpose of, I get on the clock at 102. Every single one of my 102s, Najee Harris went 101. I mean, for me, it was a slam dunk at that point. I'm taking Kyle Pitts at 102. I'm drafting him every single spot. And I think even you guys were in the hard way together. You guys took Najee Harris. I mean, it was like, hey, done in my mind. I'm taking Kyle Pitts. And I think in a couple of these leagues, I said, hey, I'm willing to move off the 102. And again, we talked about crystallization, 104. That's kind of where you want to be. And hey, I already mentioned I was willing to pay the iron price for the pick. And all the offers I got were like, I'll take your 102 for my 106 in the next year's 22nd round or third round. And I'm like, hey, I know that I put my dumb ass out there and I was willing to give up 2 first-round picks this year and my first-round pick next year. That's not the iron price. And again, my point is I took them and I didn't care because people weren't willing to pay the price. And I love our guy, Austin Martin, because I think he put it so beautifully, so poetically. Everyone in the 103, 104 that I saw had this like sweet coddled spot ready to go to put Kyle Pitts. Oh, I'm just going to pencil in my roster. He's going to be so available. What cute tight end spot. No, I'm in the 102 and you're not paying the iron price. I'm taking Kyle Pitts. Did it 1, 2, 3 times. No regrets. Kyle Pitts, 102.
Nice. Theo.
So I ended up with 4 Kyle Pitts shares, and 3 of those were at the 101.
Look at the smile on his face, Dan. Look at that smile.
I took him. I will preface this. A number of these teams I actually traded, so I had the first and second pick in this draft. I was very aggressive trying to get those top few picks, and I have Najee Harris 101, but I took Kyle Pitts in 2 of those leagues right ahead of Najee. Another league, I took him at the 101. I really needed a tight end. I have a Nick Chubb at running back and a few other nice pieces. So I felt like it was the right move. But Kyle Pitts to me, to echo what Andrew was saying, it's sort of unbelievable because we all walked into, months ago when we started talking about these rookies. It was kind of a foregone conclusion for us in FFPC that Pitts would be in that top 4, but it was sort of like a last few weeks steamroll where all the sharp players started. A lot of sharp players who had, probably had Najee as their one, Chase as their one. ETN, I think a few people were a little upset about the draft landing spot. I think, it was very odd. I had one league where he went 101, but it was very odd to see him there. I think a lot of people just sort of went with the momentum and kind of accepted the fact that they're using the 101 on Pitts. I think it's unbelievable. I don't think we'll ever see a rookie tight end go 101 unless Pitts hits like we've never seen a tight end hit, and then in a couple of years we have, we're searching for the next Kyle Pitts. I don't think we'll ever see a rookie go 101 at the tight end position, even in tight end premium. So it was really unbelievable, but it was kind of like to me, I mean, I don't know what Dan has to say on this, but it seems to me like it was the last few weeks, even a last 2-week type push where Pitts, jumped up to that number 1 spot. And, I sort of followed the momentum on this one, but I'm extremely high on him. I think that, we're talking Dynasty here. Redraft's a whole nother story. He's going too high in redraft. I will say that right now. But in Dynasty, very few tight ends have ever had this sort of a profile. And we've seen how dominant Travis Kelce and Darren Waller are. To get a guy like that in a tight end premium format, or a person that can be like that and also break out at such a young age. I mean, you're getting a 20-year-old who at 22 could be giving you Darren Waller numbers. So, I mean, I get why people did it, but I still think it's an unbelievable storyline for us Dynasty players to see, the steamroll that got him up to 1.
Theo, I know it's a tough day to mention Bitcoin, but I can't believe you didn't mention your Bitcoin reference.
Oh yeah, well, he has Bitcoin. Everybody wants to get a couple of shares of Bitcoin. Yes. That one never. It's the guy. It's like it's just unbelievable to think of what he can be in the league. I think rookie year, people need to kind of slow the brakes, but I can very much see why he went number 1. And it's also crazy to think that he went number 1 in a draft where Najee Harris lands in an ideal spot. And we're seeing Najee Harris go in the top 10 of football guys' drafts right now for redraft. So you're passing up a running back 1, a running back from the steps on the field in terms of ADP to take a 20-year-old tight end. And it makes sense. It makes sense for a lot of teams.
I'll shut up in a second, but Theo, did you get in any of your 4 Kyle Pitts? Did you get him past the 103 in any of those times?
No, and I did not see him even in leagues. I had a number of 250s where I thought potentially I could get him a little later. It didn't happen. I even had one league where I traded up from 4 to 2 to try to get in the Harris Pitts. Hoping that I could get, at least one of those guys, potentially 2 of them, because I had a 3rd pick as well. I traded, I believe it was I'd have to go back and look at this, but I believe it was the 5th pick with Mike Davis and Mike Gesicki and something else. So I overpaid to get up there, and Pitts was 1 in that league. So I ended up with Najee Harris at the 2 and Jamar Chase at 3, which I'm still, thrilled about. But in so many leagues, he went 1. For me, I think it was the majority of the leagues. I'd say 95% of. Well,
I was just showing Theo. I had it on the screen here. I've got one of my 500 here, where you could see clearly 101, Najee, Chase, Etienne, and actually this one is Smith. But when I go to my 77, just to show the difference with the different buy-ins here, this is one of my 77s. Kyle Pitts, Harris, Chase, Etienne, and then here Javonte, which I think is probably more common than Smith. But so just to show that on FFPC, he was going early. Dan, what are your thoughts on the tight end?
Yeah, so he was not my 101. I had him more in the 103, 104 range. And I did not come off of that. I felt like that's probably where he belonged. I had Najee Harris at 101, Jamar Chase at 102, and then Pitts or ETN at 103, 104, kind of depending on what my team needed, pretty much, because I had them rated pretty identically. I was a little bit surprised at how many leagues he went. Pitts went 101 in. That just didn't quite make as much sense to me. Because tight ends do have that longer runway. And that is going to matter. He's not going to lose a ton of value, but he's not going to really gain any value. Whereas, Najee Harris and Jamar Chase, I think, are players who can gain value even from their spot at the 101 or 102. So that's why I put and kept those players there. That said, I did get a Pitts share at 103. And that was, and that was actually in a pretty sharp league too. It was not the hard way, but it was a league that Lance, sports betting man, Lance is in, Bip Mandal was in, and a few other guys that are just super, super sharky dynasty players. And so I was pretty pleased to be able to get Pitts at the 103 there, especially as I had a little bit of a need at tight end. So, but yeah, I think with Pitts, here's the thing. I saw a lot of dynasty players that I really, really respect pushing up Dobbins last year as kind of their 101. And, I'm not sure how well that worked out. Time will tell. It's way too early to draw great conclusions, but I'd certainly feel a lot better with Jonathan Taylor than I would with J.K. Dobbins on my roster right now. I just feel like Dobbins has a little bit of a capped upside. Maybe he's got the talent to overcome that, but with what Lamar Jackson siphons off, I think that kind of caps him. And I think with Pitts, his upside in the first year is going to be a little bit capped just from the rookie learning curve. And then also, I don't know how much volume they're going to have in Atlanta on the passing game. It kind of sort of seems like, well, they should have a ton of volume because that's what they're good at. But on the other hand, Arthur Smith may not want to be doing that much passing. He may look to establish the running game a little bit more. So we'll see what happens there.
What would he need to do to move into the unequivocal tight end one for startups next year? Let's say Travis Kelce finishes.
He has to win your league. He has to win your league. He has to win your league because, like what I was going to say, Theo, is look at the FFPC, man. How many guys do you have on your bench? It's not an MFL league where you got like 35 deep. So you're 101. He better win you your league your first year.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of a little bit how I feel about it. You want to have that league winning upside there, and I'm not sure that Pitts is going to offer that. And I don't really see the path to him becoming, even if everything breaks exactly right. It's tough for him to be, the first tight end selected next year, just because if Kelce does Kelce things, he's and even if Waller does Waller things and Kittle does Kittle things, how far up can you push Pitts? Can you say, oh, I think he's going to pass those guys? I don't know.
Plus a guy like Kittle's getting a new quarterback, like a shiny new quarterback, whether that's this year, next year. So
that could be good or bad. I have more reservations about Kittle than the other two for sure. But I feel like, Pitts, even though he supposedly can't miss, we heard a lot of good things about Ebron. We heard a lot of good things about Noah Fant. We heard a lot of good things about
OJ Howard. OJ Howard.
OJ Howard, exactly. With these, he's not.
I like Dan. Your cat just crept up behind you. So
I know it. Yeah, she's. I had all three animals in the room just a minute ago because my door doesn't latch because the house shifted. So The office door can be pushed open now by the animals. And so I had all 3 animals come cruising in here. My wife shooed 2 of them out, but I don't think she saw the 3rd one. So I'll be shooting her out.
The cat's super polite, man. She just like crept out nice and quiet, didn't want to bother you, you know?
Oh yeah, that's usually the loud one. I mean, she gets obnoxious. But we'll see how she goes. But anyway, with these even highly drafted, early first round. I mean, Ebron went what, 10th overall?
9th, 10th, yeah.
9th or 10th, something like that. I mean, that's not that far away from
Wasn't he 5th?
territory.
Am I dreaming that?
I think you are, but
okay.
Vernon Davis was, I want to say, right up in there, that same range.
I mean, Dan, I would never want to be quizzed here, but like those guys, maybe they went up against a better running back class. So don't quiz me right now. But is it as simple as we have a generational tight end, allegedly generational tight end against an allegedly poo-poo platter of a running back class? Is that really what we're seeing here? Like,
I think that's got a lot to do with it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But, on the other hand, you have to take a look at, what are these tight ends that were highly drafted in the NFL? What did they turn out like for fantasy? And for the most part, they didn't turn out that great. So, you can still, I don't think, that doesn't necessarily mean anything for Pitts. Pitts is Pitts. He is, what he is as far as like what is his college, production was, as far as his measurables, and how he tested and everything. And, you can't take that away from him. And he can, there's nothing that says he can't take that and be fantastic. I'm just not willing to anoint him as, quite yet.
So I think another factor for me was the fact that Atlanta passed up taking Justin Fields, a homegrown, quarterback that we've all gushed about Justin Fields for the last, month and a half. We all love Justin Fields, and then Trey Lance, a player who San Francisco, Lance with the pick before, but the fact that they passed up on Justin Fields in order to take a luxury position. I mean, they have 2 very, very good, if not great, pass catchers in Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley, and they have a 36-year-old quarterback, and they chose to go with the tight end. I think it kind of speaks volumes on Pitts and the plans the Falcons have for him. I mean, I think that they want him to be a star, and they really need him to be a star with the draft capital they just spent on him. I think that was a little bit of a factor coming in. But yeah, it's like Dan said, I think it's very aggressive, and you might be drafting him at his peak, but I think for a lot of players, it's, I want to take a chance on having, that weapon that will win me weeks and weeks and weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. I see, Harris as being, super unlikely to lose value, and Chase as being super unlikely to lose value. Pitts probably won't lose much, but, I can't put him in quite the same tier. And then with Chase and Harris, I think both of them can definitely gain even more value, to the point where, it would cost you the 101 plus to get them at this time next year.
I know as someone who I won the 102. Well, I won the 102. I lost in the final against actually Shane Manila. He got the 101. And I was so thankful he went Kyle Pitts. I was hoping he was going Pitts. He didn't want to say anything about it. And then Harris felt to me nicely. And that was a team where I literally had Akers and JT, Jonathan Taylor, who I drafted last year, 102. And then I made a move to grab Akers. So, I mean, not a bad trio for FFPC, with some stacked receivers and Kittle and other positions like that. So, I was happy that the 101 was Pitts in scenarios where I had the 102.
Yeah,
Dan,
for sure.
Dan, we had 102 in the money league, which is MFL. It's a 2 tight end, super flex, deep roster type of league. Theo, you're, I believe, also in that league.
Yeah,
you're in that league as well. So we drafted 102 in the actual startup. We drafted 106, and then the logic, the discussion we had was basically, if we took a quarterback at 102, which seemed to be most of the trend. I mean, look, we went very light on tight end, let's say, in the startup. I don't remember who our best.
Let me rephrase this just a little bit for our listeners. Okay, we fucked up. We thought that it was start one tight end. It was
we had no idea.
Two tight end. Yep. So our roster was aimed towards, we just need to put one of these bozos in here and we're gonna be fine.
Can you
and then by the time it was far too late to change horses, we found out you got to start two of these guys. And so I felt like that really kind of pushed us towards Pitts, and neither one of us really wanted to take him at 102. I mean, I would have been much, much happier taking Trey Lance or Justin Fields. I mean, that would have been a fun debate to have. Take one of them at 102, and then at 106, that would have, left things wide open for us. I think Najee Harris might have still been available there. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So that.
But by doing this, Dan, it was like you take your quarterback there, you're probably not getting Pitts back, right? In this type of league where tight end is that important. So by doing that, we at least guaranteed us the tight end and a quarterback. We weren't the biggest fans of the quarterback we got, but it's still a young quarterback that's actually guaranteed to start day one, which is, still it. You hope some hype builds up before now in the start of the season. So maybe you can move them or upgrade or something, but that was the logic, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. I mean, given the what we had drafted, this is what we had to do with the rookie draft to really give our team the best chance. And it could still work out great. I mean, Pitts could smash, Zach Wilson could smash, and, we can live happily ever after. But, it just wasn't exactly the way that I hoped it would go down. The whole time since we took the 102 in the draft, the whole time I was kind of egging Nate on to saying, we're going to take Pitts. We're going to take Pitts, and just trying to get him to panic. And then we end up actually having to take Pitts. So it's all right.
So going around real quick, maybe making this one like a, what do you call that? Rapid fire type of question. Mm-hmm. What's a player that you were pretty high on, or that you maybe wish that you didn't get any at all? Or Theo, I'll go to you because this was actually a good question you kind of dropped for this show. A player that maybe you didn't get any shares of that you really like, or maybe didn't get enough shares of.
So for me, it was Trevor Lawrence, who I was very high on. And, I figured, I had all these late firsts. I figured maybe I'd take him late first, but every time I was on the clock, I ended up going with guys like Elijah Moore. I went with a Rondell Moore. I would go with guys like that over the quarterback. And then he would immediately get scooped up at like the 201 if he didn't go in the first. I saw him go at the 202, might have been the lowest that he went in any of my leagues. In some leagues he went extremely high, which I think was poor process. We are on a group chat, for our Hardway League, and people kept reporting the high Lawrence picks. I think, there might have been a 103 in there or something like that, a 102, which is just nuts for any quarterback. But I figured I would have walked out of these drafts with so many picks with at least some Trevor Lawrence, a player who I think very highly of, and I have 0 shares. I just couldn't do it. At the end of the day, I think the bottom of the first round was too strong, and I did not want to use a first round pick on Trevor Lawrence, and I think you had to do it this year. It seemed like maybe about the 109 was about the sweet spot, the 110, and it never happened for me.
You guys get any Lawrence? Is that something you guys would do in a 1 QB?
I did not take any Lawrence, and I wasn't mad about it at all. Because I found Lance and Fields somewhere in the early to, usually Lance was going to the early to mid second, and then Fields was going late second. And that was, I was more than happy with them at that price versus Lawrence at his price, because to me, there were still some good quality receivers and maybe even running back or two that were available right around where Lawrence was going, and Lance and Fields were kind of going where you had a big teardrop at both wide receiver and running back, and so you're kind of scratching your head going, what should I do here? So that's what most people did.
I feel like FFPC, and I did this last year on my team that actually ended up going all the way, was, those guys end up on a team that maybe is not contending later in the season. You got an opportunity there to buy. It's a 1 QB, right? So it's not like it's a super flex. So there's more of a chance the guy will move off of them. So I got Herbert last year to kind of take me all the way in the second half of the season. Or you wait for them to maybe not perform as well or right away, and it's the FFPC, and we all know what it's like when you need to add that guy off waivers, or it's very shallow benches. So some of these guys, might get dropped at some point during the season, and keep an eye out for that, because I've seen worse, man. I got Odell off waivers, Juju. I say it often. Guys just gave up on them too early because of the shallowness of the teams, and you got to look for that out there in waiver.
So I got my Mahomes shares.
See, there you go.
Take him to the bank.
So look out for that, man. In those 1 QBs, the people get really impatient with the rookies.
One of my 750s absolutely put me in the trip chamber because he had Watson and Mahomes on his team, and I had to go back and look at it. I'm like, am I still
back,
in the
man,
trip?
it's back.
Am I still in the trip chamber? And nope, he took Lawrence, he took Fields, and he took Lance, and I was like, holy hell! But I checked the rules 3 times to make sure they didn't switch it from a super flex on me. It's like, what did I miss, and why is this guy doing it?
Or it's like a 2-year warning. This will be a super flex league in 2 years.
So, where am I right now? So I legitimately checked the rules 3 times to make sure I didn't miss some kind of weird FFPC trick where yeah, exactly, Jay. Oh, after 2 years, after the startup, and if there's two straight winners, and then a third year, then you switch to a super flex that year. It's like, whoa, what did I miss? But nope, still a 1 QB league. So I'm interested to see what he does with all that capital at quarterback, because I'm certainly not paying for it. But.
Well, yeah, he's of course going to sell it off for multiple firsts.
Yeah, all of them. In a better class.
Right. Yep.
I'll say this on FFPC. If you have a contending team and and you traded your first 2 rounds, I guess, rookie drafts, it's nice that they include veterans on the FFPC.
Mm-hmm.
I was on the clock at 303 was my first pick in that 500, and I grabbed Ferkshire just because all I had was Kittle at tight end. And I mean, who am I going to get after 303 that's going to help me really in first year? And
especially this year, yeah.
You start seeing those veterans going off, so it's kind of different, right? The FFPC, how they have that mix, whereas most of your rookie drafts, it's just exclusively with the rookies. Dan, did you give your guy that you? I know you've got Terrence Marshall tattooed on your right on the back of your neck under your flow. You got a little Terrence with angel wings tattooed.
Yeah. Terrace was one of my priority guys for the late first round. I tried to take him as much as I could. Kind of the guy I missed out on that I was hoping to get more of was Elijah Moore. It would just kind of, it never quite fell my way. Either I couldn't, I could see that he was about to go and I tried to get up there and I couldn't do it, or he went, before I thought he was going to go. And, so I missed out on him that way. But he was one of those guys that sometimes popped up into the 107, 108, 109 range. And I was expecting to go more in the 10, 11, 12 range.
I got him 205 in a super flex tight end.
Yeah, see that in a super flex, you can get him down a little bit lower like that. But in the 1 quarterback leagues, he was. I thought he would go maybe after Terrace Marshall, and a lot of times he went before. So I was obviously not too disappointed to get my boy Terrace a few of those times, but I was hoping for a little bit more even split.
Dan, to piggyback off that, I know you were an Elijah Moore guy. You think even we did a best ball in January.
Yep.
And you've been all over the Elijah Moore, but I was kind of thinking the same spot of the draft because I would have named 2 guys here. One, Trey Sermon, who I am high on, and for my running back needy teams, I absolutely would have taken him when I had that the 109, I think, in the hard way. I would have loved to have him there. I think he went slightly before that. But then so he was kind of out of my reach.
Did you say Trey Sermon or Keyshawn Vaughn? Sorry, I didn't hear you there.
Yeah, just the 2020 version of Keyshawn Vaughn. I mean, I was high on him, but I think to that point, JD, not willing to pay the price to trade up and get him. So if he was there, I absolutely would have taken him, absolutely. But I think that when I found myself in the back end of that first round, early into the second round, when I'm on the clock and I'm seeing Rondale Moore, Rashad Bateman, Elijah Moore, it was always one of those three that I would take ahead of Terrace Marshall. So, Dan, to go back to your point of like, I like Terrace Marshall, definitely would have. And if those guys had all been off the board, I think that I would have taken him 10 times out of 10. As I was joking a couple times, I don't want to be holding the bag on Michael Carter. So I can't wait for that to bite me. Mm-hmm. But like, I didn't take Terrace Marshall, but I liked him. But it was just because I always took another wide receiver ahead of him if one of the Moores or Bateman was there.
What was the reasoning? Was it based on where you thought ceiling was with each guy, or does this guy go in and have a path to wide receiver one versus? Because I feel like Bateman for me is that guy, and I think that the whole Lamar Jackson, like everybody's got turned away from that, and I feel like that's going to bite me in the ass. That he might be what we hoped Hollywood would be.
Yeah,
and everybody got turned away by Hollywood, in that situation.
I took. Absolutely. I mean, I was taking Bateman. I mean, all three of the more bros, and then Bateman over Terrace Marshall every time I had an option to do so. So I just left with none of him. I think on the Bateman, like I'm interested in taking those shots, especially in this rookie draft class, on that ceiling. That Bateman's just that athlete, and he has the draft capital. And I think that I get addicted to the ceiling. And I see it and I envision it and I'm trying to have access and exposure to that. So that's just where I ended up. And I get it on Terrace Marshall too. And I like him. I absolutely would have taken him, but whenever I was on the clock, I always liked one of those other three wide receivers more than him.
Well, let me ask you on Bateman. I mean, how many targets do you think he can get this year?
I mean, can it be 90? Can it be 80? I mean, like I just in terms of comparison to him and Marshall, I think he's still going to get more than Marshall. And what I don't want to get hung up on, Dan, is this year's target versus exposure to like longevity, because I don't know how that offense evolves. Yeah, maybe it's the same, and maybe we're just stuck in the same Lamar Jackson trip chamber time loop over and over again, and we're just going to keep doing the Lamar Jackson thing, and he's going to miss people downfield. I guess I'm just doing the thing where I'm believing in the talent and I'm trusting the talent, and maybe I'm looking for Theo to step in here and kind of save me, because I think that he's looking at the talent too. So I love Bateman here, even if his targets are low year one. Yeah. So Theo, come and save me here.
So I think that it's a Greg Roman issue. I mean,
right.
I think Bateman's a fantastic talent. We got him to go in the first round, where that was one thing that Bateman backers were looking for. I mean, he's got the college production. He's got the size. He was a little light at his pro day, but Ravens Twitter just posted he's back over 200 pounds, so he's where he needs to be, and they took the end of the first round. So, I mean, he's the best wide receiver that Lamar Jackson's ever played with. I don't dislike Hollywood Brown, but he's certainly not Rashad Bateman. And I think that, you can make arguments on both sides here. I mean, he might go into a year where he has 80 targets. If they keep playing, the running style of football, to their own detriment in the playoffs, and they don't try to evolve this offense, then, he's not going to get enough volume. But you could see him, he has the profile of a wide receiver one. And I think that if the Ravens embrace that and we see a little bit of a evolution in their offense, then I think, there could be something there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get what you're saying. I guess, my concerns with them are two. One is the Roman offense and, how much passing volume are we going to get? And the other is what seems to be, at least right now, Lamar Jackson's limitations, which is he has a lot of trouble passing to the, outside of the hash marks, basically. And, for those reasons, if Bateman had gone somewhere else, I would have been much, much, much higher on him. But yeah, I have a hard time envisioning how he, I think there's going to be other opportunities to buy into Bateman, I guess is the way it comes down for me. And there may be for Marshall too, because Marshall has his own, because Marshall is not going to be the number one there. He's going to be the number 3.
Yeah.
And that's definitely a concern. But on the other hand, he is going to his college offensive coordinator, who definitely knows how to use him. Strictly talent-wise, I think he's the equal of Bateman. I may be dead wrong about that, but I really, truly believe that talent-wise, he's the equal of Bateman. I think if, nobody's going to be a Justin Jefferson probably out of this class, but, if somebody could be, I think if we're going to look at the players available in the back half of the first round, Terrace Marshall or Elijah Moore are the 2 players who I think are the most likely ones to, that we're going to look back on and say, man, we should have had them a lot higher. They should have been, 103, 104, 102, something like that. So that's where I came down on those guys. And, like I say, Bateman probably could have been there too if he'd gone to a better landing spot.
Do you guys have and maybe we talked about it already, maybe you can, if we already talked about the first round, second round values, like what do you think, Dan, you're talking about the back end going into the second, those 2 guys being probably the best value. Theo, would you agree? Do you have anyone else we haven't talked about that?
I'll just echo Dan on Elijah Moore. I think that he could be a star, and I think that the landing spot is perfect. The Jets have a number of wide receivers, but they have a true alpha on that offense. I think Elijah Moore landed into a great situation. They're going to play 3-4 wide receivers a lot. They'll line him up all over the field. He should get a lot of easy looks from Wilson. I think he'll be somewhat of a security blanket. He's got big playability. And I think he went in that like 110, 111, 112 sweet spot. I got him at a 201 once. I actually traded a 2022 first to move back into a back half of a first round, and I got him at the 110 in that league. So I have 3 Elijah Moore shares, which I'm very happy about. But I think I'll echo Dan on that. I think he is the value of the first round. I think there's very few question marks for me on him becoming a productive NFL player. I think that, it's going to take he certainly doesn't have massive size. He's very quick. So for him to become a star, a few things are going to have to bounce right. But I think that he's, without a doubt, going to have a number of wide receiver 2 years. And I think that that's something that, you can bank on to get him at the end of the first round. I think was great value here.
Andrew, anything to add? Talking values in those first 2 rounds, rookie drafts?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to brag, but I won 2 dynasty leagues last year, 2 whole dynasty leagues. And when I was drafting at that thank you. And when I was drafting at that 212 spot, I think even that pros versus Joes, again, not to brag that I won that last year, to get Diami Brown at that late second, and in fact, early third in a couple of these, you guys did make me do my homework. I had to go back and actually map out my drafts. I loved seeing Diami Brown there. Now, I don't think that he's like the Dan, we're going to look back and think that he was like a 103, 104. But I definitely think that there's equity in drafting, finding Diami Brown sitting there waiting for you in the back half of that second round, maybe early third round. I get that some of the analytics, again, I'm going to make me sound like a meathead football coach. I get that some of the analytics are going to say that hey, the long-term value is going to be starting to pepper those running backs and take shots on them and seeing if they pop in the second and third rounds. But I got to tell you, just from a profile perspective, Diami Brown, I think having a little bit of the height, a little bit of the size, definitely that downfield threat. I want to bet on that talent, especially if they fall down to that 24th and beyond pick. So I really found this year a lot of value in people, for whatever reason, skipping on Diami Brown. And I absolutely scooped him up anytime I was on the clock in that late second, early third round.
Yeah, I picked him up at the 312 in one league, and it was it was like found money.
Well, congrats on winning that league and getting him in a whole round after my leagues that I won. But But the fact remains, yeah.
See, it's because you weren't in those leagues, Andrew.
Yeah. Well,
That's
I probably
why.
would have had the 101 in that one. I'm sure I
See,
would.
I was taking notes off the pros versus jokes. I was like, oh, Andrew took Miami 212. So yeah, he's here at 312.
So if I get him at the 312, yeah, I've already won.
Yes.
Won the league.
Yep, exactly.
I'll throw out one more second round value, and a player that I took probably more often than anyone in any of these rookie drafts was Pat Freiermuth. And I think that he's just a beast, and I think that the Kyle Pitts is a whole nother story, and he's by no means Kyle Pitts, but I think that a year from now his value is going to go way up. I think he'll have a number of explosive games and explosive moments. I think there'll be a little bit, obviously Ebron's going to have a role this year, but I think Freiermuth is a natural tight end. I think they're going to line him up all over the field. There's been a lot of positive buzz coming out from Pittsburgh after the pick was made. This is a tight end, the kind of tight end we haven't had in a while. We're going to line him up in the backfield. We're going to line him up out wide. There's a lot to like about him. He's got to improve a little bit as a blocker, but in terms of a receiver, I think that a year from now he could be in that, tight end 12 through 15 ranks heading into next season, and I think he'll move way, way up in Dynasty in terms of his value. So for me, second round, it was hard for me to pass him up in the second round. I took him at the 203, and then I also, when I saw an opportunity to get him, I traded into a couple back halves of the second when he fell. So he was probably my favorite second round pick.
Yeah, I remember you're big on him. The OG GOAT, which is just a 1 QB, it's not a premium for any position, but I literally have no one at tight end. Like the rest of my team is all right to compete, but literally no one at tight end. And sure enough, at 303, I took Freiermuth just because it's deeper leagues and we have taxis. So I took him at 303, and then I took Trey McKitty at 501 in Chargerland. I mean, look, maybe the guy it's a 5th round pick, but there's nobody there. Hunter Henry's gone. Parham's there, and I picked him up in some FFPC actually rookie leagues. I was trying to see what round I got him. I think it was like the 5th or the 6th, but just flyers on tight ends. I don't mind it. It's tough for me to pick them up. Like, especially this year, I find the 1 QBs, the second round is like, maybe you get one of those quarterbacks, or, maybe someone falls early in the round. But like Chuba Hubbard's a guy that I have a lot of shares of, especially like in the super flex tight end ones, because he falls so far down. And I kind of like his situation as much as, CMC's there. We saw what Mike Davis did there. Again, maybe a little biased because he's Canadian, maybe just a little bit. But no, I mean, I liked getting second round picks in super flex tight end drafts. Like I had one, my favorite draft. I ended up with 3 picks in the second round, and I got Michael Carter, Terrace Marshall, and Chuba Hubbard with those 3 picks. My first 2 picks at 105, this is super flex tight end. I had Chase. I took Jamar Chase because I have Burrows, and I'm in a rental mode. I'm not competing yet. And then I got Travis Etienne at 109. So if you look at the pieces I picked up, maybe we'll lead into the later rounds. Josh Palmer and Anthony Schwartz, probably the 2 receivers I have most shares of late in the rounds. Who are guys you guys like in those later rounds, whether it's FFPC or leagues on other formats?
Yeah, you guys made me do my homework. And I mentioned at the top, I learned literally no lessons. And I think for Kyle Pitts, probably okay. But then I went back and looked at these drafts. And I found my dumbass taking Hunter Long so many times.
The one guy I didn't mention, 404, picked him ahead of Josh Palmer.
There you go.
405, yep.
I just kept it got to the situation. I think, JD, you alluded to it. Like, Ferkser gone, Jarwin gone, for like the veterans, like Parham may be gone. Nobody fact checked me in case I took Hunter Long ahead of these guys. But I took Hunter Long so many times because he was just sitting there. It's like, well, maybe he's among the first cuts. Okay, I can trick myself into thinking Gesicki's a unrestricted free agent this year. Maybe he's gone next year. Who knows? Dan, don't fact check me on that one because maybe it's 2022. I don't know. Point being, I ended up taking a lot, especially in these tight end premiums, of Hunter Long, like trying to convince myself, oh, it's okay. I can take another, mid late round tight end. I don't know if I'm going to be holding on to them. Maybe they end up being a store of value a little bit over summer. Likely not, and I hate the pick. And again, I kick myself because I absolutely learned no lessons. But the two guys that I want to talk about, and hopefully I'm leaving some of the wide receivers open for the rest of us. I found myself a lot of these teams having Jared Dokes, the rookie running back on Miami out of University of Cincinnati. And then I actually pulled up a pronunciation guide that I got out of, but I think it's Kune Nigwangwu.
Oh, is that in Minnesota?
Yep, out of
Yes.
Minnesota. And look, 6th, 7th round, and some of these best balls, 10th round picks, if they're sitting there, I think that I take my meathead cap off, where I'm no longer I'm taking these potential alpha wide receivers. I'm going back to where what the analytics say. Take some of these dart throw shots on these running backs and see if they work out. I like the situation in Miami. Again, I think we got a couple of 7th round picks there with Gaskin and Ahmed. So okay, adding Dokes may fine. He just long line of late round running backs there. Perhaps he gets a run if there's an injury there. And then on Nagongwu, same situation, right? I love Dalvin Cook, Florida State guy. Go Noles, right? But if Madison stinks, right, maybe he's in line for a backup role. And I don't mind taking these late round shots on them. So anyways, as an idiot and as an absolute square, took a lot of Hunter Long. But as I was trying to be a sharp, I was taking a lot of these shots on these late round running backs. So I don't know if you guys ended up with them or some other guys.
Yeah, I ended up with some other guys. Just because in the FFPC drafts, I kind of switched over once we got into the late 3rd, early 4th round. I was pretty much out of rookies that I really had very much interest in, and especially with the way that you can only roster 20 players, so I was taking some shots on some veterans. I took a lot of Traquan Smith just because, they're.
I picked him up too, actually.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Like 6th, 7th round,
Right, exactly. And, he appears to probably be the wide receiver 2 with a quarterback who can actually get him the ball. So I'm willing to give that a shot, see what happens. I took MVS, just trying to get myself some exposure to, at least hopefully Aaron Rodgers. Who knows? Though as a Vikings fan, I should probably say hopefully not Aaron Rodgers. I took a lot of LaMichael Pirine, and
every time we had a late pick in a rookie draft, he's like trying to sell me on Pirine.
Got to do the Pirine.
We did a lot of the Pirine brothers this offseason. Yeah. I don't think they're brothers, but again, LaMichael and Samaje, I was just hammering those in the 7th, 8th round if they were still available, and it was ugly. But right. I like the Pirine brothers.
Yeah, well, I mean, LaMichael, it was a different coaching staff when he got drafted, right? But it was the same GM. So, at least the GM has at least some kind of interest. He was drafted with about exactly the same draft capital as Michael Carter. And he's actually been through an NFL season, and he understands what it takes to play in the league, whereas Carter's coming in, green as grass. So, to me, Carter was one of those guys I very rarely grabbed in the rookie drafts just because of the fact that he's a 4th round pick. And betting on 4th round rookies to take over a backfield in their first year is just like a horrendously shitty bet. So, I just couldn't do a whole lot of Michael Carter. There was a couple places where I was really stuck and I just needed running backs. And I was like, he's probably not going to hit this year, but maybe next year. He's somebody I would stash and hold. But, Pirine is somebody I think, I could be way, way off on this, but who else are they going to start? I mean, it's basically the green as grass Carter, Pirine, or Tevin the Glassman Coleman. So, or it's probably going to be Ty Johnson because I did not grab any Ty Johnson. So that would be the
I
player.
had him on a couple taxis, so I have.
Yeah, that'll be the player that takes over the Jets' backfield and fills me with regret. But such is life.
Perine also was having a great camp before he got hurt. There was, his rookie year would have gotten started off, and we might be looking at him in a whole different light if he would have gotten work from the beginning of the season. So I like that. Michael Perine taking shots on. I think that's a great call. It's really funny how the Dynasty community has gone kind of nuts. Michael Carter, and I don't dislike Michael Carter, but I saw him go at the 107 a couple times, and I'm like, I can't do it. I think you nailed it.
But see, that Theo to me is an owner who is not staying fluid and is sticking to. I'm one of those guys. I say it on the show often. I'm all about running backs because they give you production right away. But you gotta adapt, man. You can't just be stuck in your ways. And if you're reaching because you need a running back at the position you have, you weren't able to move back, then you're just missing out. Like you're leaving value on the table, by doing that. And I think that's a mistake that a lot of people make.
Yeah, and I think like Dan said, and for me, I added a ton of rookies, so I'm not. I get rookie fever. I want the new on my team. I want to keep turning that roster, but you could offer the 107 and get a number of veteran running backs who can help you right away. If you're that running back needy, go offer the 107 and go get Kareem Hunt or something. Go get Mike Davis and something. You can get running backs who are going to work this year, for a lot less than the 107. So, yeah.
Do you guys find people were less likely to trade into these rookie drafts this year versus other, especially after those top 4 or 5 picks were gone?
Absolutely. Yeah.
It was harder to move back, I found.
Yeah. It was hard to move up if you had late firsts. Like I had a couple of leagues where I had, the 9, 10, 12 or the, 8, 11, 8, 10, 11, something like that. And it was just, I kept trying to move up or to buy an established player, like I was throwing out offers like, the 8, 9, 11 trying to get Gibson and, just nobody biting. And, normally you throw out 3 firsts like that, you can get, even if they're late first, you can get almost any player you want in the FFPC, because somebody, especially if you can find that franchise that has a, one good running back or, whatever that one really good player is you want, but otherwise they're kind of a rebuild and they probably recognize that. So, they're more willing to flip out for that draft capital. And I just wasn't finding I could do that. Like the league where I tried to trade the, I think I had the 9, 11, and 12. I ended up trading, and I also had the 101 in that one. I tried trading the 9, 11, 12 for Antonio Gibson. Never could make that one stick. I tried it for Cam Akers.
Nobody's letting go of Akers or Gibson.
Yeah, right, exactly. So eventually, I just said, you know what, screw it. Right before the draft started, I offered my 101 for Antonio Gibson, and the guy took it. So
that's sweet.
Nice.
Yeah, and then I turned around and I traded the 111, the 112, LaVisca, and Hunter Henry for Calvin Ridley and Gerald Everett.
Nice.
Nice. Which is it's a fairly steep price, but this was also a team, that was kind of it's a win now team. So, getting Ridley in there, I think Everett is probably going to be every bit as good as Henry and maybe better this year. Getting Ridley for, Visca plus, 2 crapshoot picks at the 111 and 112. And at that point I was starting to kind of see what was going on with LaVisca, because he's a player I've soured on a lot more over the past couple of weeks, just because, what's coming out of Jacksonville, it looks like they were really, really wanting to get Kadarius Toney, and then ETN was kind of the backup pick. And it looks like, Urban Meyer wants to try to turn ETN into, some sort of he basically wants to put him into the Chenault role. And that is, yeah, exactly.
Wah, 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 wah.
And you see stuff like that, and it's like, you hear the, well, yeah, we really want Kadarius Toney, and you can kind of laugh that off. But when all of a sudden you see him jamming ETN into the receiver practices, and you know that he's going to, get the exact sort of things that Shenault does the best, it just doesn't make you feel good about what you got going on with Shenault.
All right, guys, I gotta jump in here real quick. All right, if you're watching, you're listening, we just gave you 60 plus minutes commercial free goodness, golden fantasy football goodness. We're helping you win in Dynasty, your rookie drafts. I mean, what more do you want, man? Go smash the like button. Go smash the subscribe button. Go share this show with anyone you're not competing with in fantasy. Guys, we haven't talked about our favorite site, man, the FFPC. I mean, we've talked about it all show, but I just mean give the deets on what's going on right now, because there's a lot going on right now in FFPC land, myffpc.com. Dynasty leagues we talked about. The startups are just flying right now, starting at $77. Superflex, best ball, standard, triflex. They got it, man. Whatever format you're into, they got it. We just talked about all the rookie drafts, best ball, slow, live drafts, leagues from $35 up to $12.50. Dan, Andrew, Theo, these guys are dropping $12.50s like it's nothing. Me, I'm still in the 35s. Let's face it.
Join the $12.50 auction in Vegas.
I did an 800 auction in Vegas, and man, I wish I did just a regular snake draft. I don't know why. Anyways, let's get back to the FFPC, guys.
Well, and JD, they just dropped the new best ball tournament.
Oh, today. It's coming. Don't worry, it's coming. I got all the slides, dude. I did a lot of work.
Good.
A little extra work on the side.
Show me.
Alex will be happy, man. We got just under $4 million in prize money right now. Early bird, save $100 on your first team, save $400 on each additional team if you sign up by May 31st. Deadline,
and that will also get you a lottery ticket to get into the Pros versus Joes.
Oh, there you go. And Dan, you have a bit of news on that. Why don't you just spread it now? Why don't you just gloat a bit, man? Come on.
I will. So one of the pros you can play against is yours truly.
There you go, Dan.
Yes.
The one and only overhyped sleeper.
So yeah, if you want an easy victory, get into my league.
That's we all know that's not true. But guys,
that is absolutely untrue. You do not want to see Dan in your league at all.
Especially with that flow.
Dan crushes this format. So that is not the pro you want to see. You do not want to see Dan as one of your pros.
Yeah,
football guys.
I have to say, with the Pros versus Joes, I've been in twice before as a Joe, and both times I've had exceedingly horrible injury luck. So you never know.
I'm already hearing excuses, Dan. Come on, it's not
every best ball I've been in with.
Hey, I don't make the players get injured. If I do shitty picks, I will take full responsibility for those. But when a player gets injured, that's out of my hands. So,
all right, guys, let me get through this. Come on, we got $500,000, $500,000 grand prize, the Football Guys Players Championships. You get a free $35 FFPC league credit. We all know you can buy into a $35 best ball, or you can use that credit towards another league. And Andrew, you talked about it, buddy. Why don't you let the people know? I mean, Dan and I were actually on Gold Jackets with our friends Jim and Connor over at True North, and this came up, and this was news to me, man. I must have missed the bulletin on this one, but guys, this is let me know what you think. $125 entry fee, best ball tournament, online draft daily. 100,000 grand prize, 550,000 prize pool. How do you feel about it, guys?
Got to take a couple shots on that.
Yeah, for sure.
A handful of shots.
There you go. 4 shots. There you go.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's 44,608 teams max in this tourney. So it's not going to be one of those things like the underdog, where there's a half a gazillion people you're going up against for $1 million. You're going to, it's like when you have just 4,000 people you're going up against, it's going to make it worthwhile.
For sure, man. Guys, check out the FFPC, myffpc.com. If you're not already on there, tag at Goat District on Twitter, and we'll hook you up with a exclusive bonus for signups. We touched a bit on trades in draft trading. The FFPC, I will say, is definitely at the top of the heat when it comes to action during the rookie drafts. And with my experience anyways, people are pretty active in most leagues. Why don't we, give us a feel for, were you active, very active? I know some of you have already mentioned some of the moves you've made or some action. Like, are you really active, Andrew, in these rookie drafts? Do you kind of just take what falls to you? We talked about moving up to get certain guys in certain tiers, maybe in those first 4 or 5, or moving back. Where are you on your general strategy, and what was it like for you this year, action-wise, during the actual rookie drafts?
Yeah. So first of all, I can't believe we moved past the deep sleeper segment, Theo, without you mentioning.
That's next.
You mentioning. I was gonna say, without you mentioning the whole tight end the whole purpose of the segment.
Oh no, we'll get to that.
Okay. Oh, thank God.
No, actually, you know what? Andrew's actually right, because I had 3 tight end names lined up that I was.
I was so worried that we were going to move past the whole reason.
So you know what?
On the board.
Let's go back. Let's drop him real quick. Yes. Theo, you can add if I miss.
Yes.
So I will say I want to echo Andrew a few minutes back. Mentioned Jared Dokes. I took many shots on him. He was one of the guys I picked late, and I actually tried to add him on pretty much all my Miles Gaskin teams. He's got a nice profile, bad draft capital, but if you're going to have bad draft capital, might as well go to the one team where no one has a sterling resume. I mean, Gaskin was a 7th-round pick, and he had a great year last year, on a per-game basis. They bring in Malcolm Brown, who they've talked up, but we've seen Malcolm Brown. We know he is. Salvin Ahmed's still around. So, I mean, it's a great landing spot for Dokes. I know a lot of people like Dokes before the draft, and, certainly it's an open spot.
Theo, if you're going to be bad, you might as well be 6'1" and 220 bad.
Right.
Exactly. And he's got big playability. There are worse
kinds of bad to be.
Yeah, big playability and production last year, and he's all league last year. And yeah, Dokes is definitely a guy that I added, and he's the kind of guy that you take in the 6th round, and if it doesn't look good, you just cut him. So it's and that's pretty much all these late round guys we're talking about. With roster cuts, I wanted to take guys that I thought might get steam throughout the summer, and I added in pretty much every single league. I added Tommy Tremble and Kylan Granson. And some leagues it was both guys, and pretty much in every single league I have one of the two, if not both of them. And I'm talking about as high as the very end of the 4th, and as low as towards the end of the 7th. I mean, once you get past the 3rd round in these FFPC drafts, I mean, names kind of move up and down. But Tremble is 20 years old. He's a hell of an athlete. We've talked about him in a couple of our pre-draft shows.
He didn't even go in my 500.
Yeah, so that's a little crazy to me. He didn't go. I mean, the guy goes in the 3rd round, and the only other tight end on the roster of note is Dan Arnold, who has some talent as a receiver, and they brought him in as a free agent, but it's not like Dan Arnold is going to completely create himself. Carolina really had a hell of a draft, didn't they? To get Terrace Marshall, Tommy Tremble. They got Horn in the 1st round. I mean, they really know what they're doing over there. And Hubbard as well. That's a great backup. Yep. Great backup, potentially the CMC. So that was a great draft. But Tremble to me is a guy I think could get some steam as the summer moves along.
And Theo, but before you move on, I mean, like, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but like, name another psychopath tight end known for his blocking who's developed as like a receiving tight end in this league, who's like a top 2 tight end. I mean, that's
there's certainly George Kittle didn't.
Yes, you got it.
Statistics,
extreme upside.
College, yes, and George Kittle was a day 3 pick, which obviously. I'm not looking for that, but I think that there's a chance that Tommy Tremble could be the starting tight end. And, as we've seen in these FFPC leagues, with the tight end premium, there's something to be said with that. But the guy that I think is going to be the steam of the summer, a guy that I think could really move up and actually get drafted in we'll start seeing him going in some of these football guy drafts is Kylan Granson. So he's 6'1", has some speed, a move tight end from SMU that the Colts drafted, and they're talking this kid up like he's going to be a real thing for them. I think he's going to have the Trey Burton role from day one, and I think he has potential for more. And they've said that they're going to line him all over the field like they did Eric Ebron when Ebron had his huge year. And a couple of Colt scouts have mentioned the name Dallas Clark, which I think is insane. But I'll take Kylan Granson on the chance that this is something real. And those are my three late guys. But the Tremble, Granson, and Dokes, and I pretty much have Tremble and Granson on every single team now.
And you can actually grab Granson and Mo Ali Cox in literally the last round of your rookie draft on the FFPC in the 7th round. You can get both of them, and then you've kind of locked up that Indy tight end, because we saw what Wentz did in Philly with those tight ends. And it's not like there's huge weapons. You hope Pittman, pops, and Ty still got something left, but otherwise it's not like they're. I love my Colts, but let's face it. The lines are great, the defense is great, but we could use a little flair on the offense, if you know what I mean.
Well, you got Jack Doyle there, and Zach Ertz is on the way. So
yeah, well, I wouldn't hate
Zach Ertz would take a lot of shine off.
That's some serious flair.
I wouldn't mind Ertz at all, actually.
And Theo, just to give a little
background, you got Jack Doyle. That's Ertz already, isn't it?
There you go.
Yeah. Definitely the athlete.
Yeah.
Theo, we did the Ballin podcast last week with JD, and we got off the air, and it's just like three of us, and just so disrespectful out of you, Theo. You go, "Hey, JD Andrew, you know who I really like?" And you just had like your trigger finger up a little bit. You know who I really like late in these drafts? He's like, "Well, I don't know who Theo. Tell us." And JD, yeah, tell us. Oh, I love Kylan Granson, and then boom, it felt like Theo just smashed the draft button as he's telling JD and I love Kylan Granson. So I just first of all, I love the disrespect, absolutely beautiful. But I will say, as I plugged the pod that we just did with Billy Muzio from the Fantasy Football Fanalists and Fantasy Data, Theo, you were talking about steam on the football guys already. We talked to Billy, and he's already got Kylan Granson as that 20th round football guys pick. So it's already like somebody knows something, the steam is happening. So anyways, I love the disrespect out of you on the Kylan Granson. So I absolutely needed you to talk about here on the podcast today.
There you go. And I'll throw two more names out that are a little not quite as late. But JD mentioned Josh Palmer. I took Josh Palmer pretty frequently. For me, it was more, he was kind of in that like 4th round sweet spot. I actually traded into a 5th to get him. He's very interesting. I actually just wrote an article that's coming out on Breakout Finder about a couple of these rookie wide receivers.
Also Canadian from Toronto.
Also Canadian. Yep. But he had horrific quarterback play at Tennessee. But he had a lot of success against the top corners in the SEC. He's big and he's fast. He did well at the Senior Bowl. And talk about a landing spot. He goes in the 3rd round, so you get the day 2 capital. And he lands with Justin Herbert on a team where, Mike Williams has had his moments, but doesn't really seem to have much of a future. And then there's a couple of guys like, Jalen Guyton. So I think Palmer's got a chance to pop, and potentially a year from now, he's the number 2 receiver in Los Angeles. So he's interesting. And then Schwartz, you mentioned Schwartz as well. Schwartz is super interesting. Guys running like, 4.25, I think was one of the reported 40s. So call him a below 4.3 40. The Browns think he'll be one of the fastest players in the NFL. And, Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry and Rashad Higgins are a little old in the tooth. So that's an interesting name. And a shout out to Andrew, because Josh Palmer and Anthony Schwartz are on our Triflex team.
Nice.
And we actually used a high pick on Wallace, who landed in the 5th round for the Ravens, and that turned out to be not so great a pick, but we made up for it later by taking Schwartz and Palmer very, very low. It's one of those slow drafts that happen as the draft happening, and we were able to get both of them. So hopefully one of those guys sticks. But I thought those were good names that you mentioned, JD.
Theo, I love the Palmer pick. I'm glad you mentioned our triflexing. We got him. JD and Dan, you guys snagged him to stack with Herbert in the hard way.
Yep.
I've stacked him wherever I had Herbert in like that third, fourth round. What should be the stack percentage if you have Herbert already and you're sitting there in the fourth round? Should you just be snabbing Palmer there whenever when he shows up for you for one of our drafters?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, absolutely.
Yeah,
100%.
What else you get? What else you getting in the fourth round? It has a pass like that and an offense like that with a rookie quarter, a young quarterback like that.
Gosh,
if you kept your
Miller
fourth rounder,
then
it's a hit. A guy fourth rounder surviving roster cuts is a good thing. So I mean, Palmer, he's interesting. He's definitely interesting, and most of the third round, it's actually an interesting. It's an interesting statistic, but a lot of the third rounders that hit were seniors. They're not early entry guys. You go back to the Terry McLaurin recently and a few other names of guys that played in college 4 years and then actually hit as third round wide receivers. So Palmer was interesting in that regard, and you might be cutting him. This might all be by the end of the summer, but there's a chance that he becomes the number 3 in Los Angeles, and with room for growth. So that's an interesting name.
I took him a couple times, but interested to see how dumb I am. So please roast me alive. I thought I had a few drafts where the hate went a little bit too far on Tutu Atwell, where he was sitting there at like late 5th round picks. And I mean, Theo, you mentioned rookie fever. I saw Tutu Atwell and I saw round 2 draft capital, and I was like, well, we've overcorrected way too far, and I just decided to scoop him up. And look, maybe he stinks, maybe he's a twig, 150 pounds, whatever. I thought I'd rather have him on my roster in the 5th round than not.
You have like 7th round running backs going ahead of him that might not even make teams.
Sure. So, there I said I was taking Nguanwu and Dokes. But yeah, I mean, if Atwell was there, I mean, I was drafting him like in like late 5th round. Did the hate ever go too far in your drafts where you guys found yourself taking him, or what did you guys think about Atwell?
I did not get to Atwell. I did find the hate going too far on Eskridge, though.
Yeah.
Yep. I took him in a couple spots too. Yeah, he's for sure. He was falling actually at a good value in a couple.
Right. I mean, he was. What was he? Did they take him in the 2nd round?
Yeah, 2nd round. He was 2nd round.
Yeah,
Second round
you got
capital.
that 2nd round draft capital. I mean, if I can get that in the 4th round of a rookie draft, heck yeah, I'm in.
Yeah.
I did not get any Tutu Atwell. There's the Tutu Atwell backers will point to Hollywood Brown and say, he's also exceedingly skinny. I just, for whatever reason, I didn't get Tutu Atwell in my drafts. I could be proven wrong. It just seems like they drafted him to be a specialist.
Yeah.
And the Rams will do weird things where they'll draft specialists. And I think that might be part of the reason the 49ers made the point of saying that they only draft guys on day 2 who are starters. I thought that might have been a backhanded remark against the Rams, but maybe I'm overreading that.
No, I think you're 100% right on that one.
I think they were sticking it to him a little bit, and I think it was the 49ers are, we look at as a very sharp organization, and the Rams. I mean, the Rams have some fantastic players, but they do things in interesting ways. They never have first-round picks and things like of that nature. But I don't know. I'm not a huge Atwell guy, but yeah, I mean, he had early production and he was an early entry guy, and he's got the seed, so maybe he'll pop a little bit. But Eskridge is interesting, and I added Eskridge on a number of teams. For me, it was like that end of the 3rd round. I thought was a nice time to get him, early 4th. But he's 24 years old, and I think he's going to be like the David Moore role plus. Seattle, David Moore had some weeks, he was productive, but I think that Eskridge could have a couple more manufactured touches to use his speed. So he's very interesting. And if anything happens with Tyler Lockett down the line and Eskridge, becomes that number 2 receiver, I mean, he can really take off. I think, people kind of hated on him because of his age in the pre-draft process. And he's really risen up based on it's such a good landing spot. He's a speed receiver with Russell Wilson, and they'll be able to line him up in the slot. I mean, there's a ton to like right there with that profile.
Guys, I know Theo's got a bit of a curfew tonight, and we're at $1.25 right now. Why don't we go around? We were going to talk trades and kind of get into get a bit deeper into it, but why don't we just maybe share one of our favorite in-draft trades that we made, if we have one, or a thought on in-draft trades. Andrew, I started with you. I don't know if you're good to go.
Oh, always. No, this year with this class, I got to spots where I wanted to pre-draft. I got to the 102, got to the 103. So for me this year, I was not making a lot of deals in draft. And again, I alluded to it at the top. Like when I got to those spots pre-draft and then got on the clock, I was not getting caught the iron price, the overpaying that, again, like I said, I was trying to make on my end. I was trying to move up in some other drafts, and I wasn't getting the same price. And so I love hearing, the stories of Dan, using the 101 for Gibson. Not to steal his thunder again, but, all of my moves were made pre-draft. I think I had only one of the 102s pre-draft. Made a couple of deals to get 2 more, and maybe I think a 103 along the way. So really tried to get in that top 4 in advance before the pro days, before that Pitts kind of solidified or crystallized that 104. Once I got into the draft, I just, the way that I think the values were falling, kind of in my mind, the rookie draft this year was all about those wide receivers in that late first round. So as those started falling and I saw value dropping, I just went ahead and took it and didn't necessarily move around a ton in that first, second round. And obviously, made a couple moves here and there. I think I moved up and around for, some of these rookies or some of these veterans, like maybe Darnell Mooney in a late second here or there, if he was available. But no huge blockbuster deals. A lot of that was done pre-draft, especially this year.
Dan?
Yeah, so JD, I'm gonna leave the trade for you that I know that you want to talk about, and that might involve Theo as well.
There you go.
I'm blanking. I don't even know what trade you're talking about.
The Hardway trade.
Yeah, Saquon.
Oh yeah,
Keenan Allen and Saquon.
Yeah.
Yes, I forgot about that trade.
All right, but anyway, so here was one of my favorites. I was running back poor in this league, and I'm sitting there at the 106, and I tried desperately to trade up to the 103, 104, anything like that. And Sermon even went no. Sermon didn't go, but I didn't like Sermon there. And so anyway, I took Waddle. I was kind of like, well, I don't like this, but I'm just going to take the best value, and I think that's going to be Waddle. And then about 2 hours after I took him, one of my league mates got on. He said, "Hey, I'm sorry I missed. I saw you were waving that pick around." He goes, "And Waddle is who I would have taken there. How about if I give you Josh Jacobs in the 210 for Waddle and the 206?" So that was, total smash right there. I know everybody's down on Josh Jacobs, but honestly, I mean, he's at the very worst, probably
he's undervalued right now.
Yeah. I mean, he's going to be a high-end RB2 at the worst, I think. Mm-hmm. And, if I can get that out of Waddle, just move back a few spots in the second round, that's totally fine with me. So that was one of my favorite deals. I had a bunch of them, but I'll let JD or Theo talk about the other deal.
Yeah, we could talk that. I was gonna throw my little one that I got done today, but I'll throw that in later, a little super flex action. But yeah, this is a trade. These are the type of trades I love making in the FFPC, especially when I feel like the bulk of our team, Dan, was, I mean, we have some really good pieces, but it was missing that punch, that like, I like being top heavy, man, in FFPC. I want ballers. I want studs. So we basically moved DJ Shark, Irv Smith, Najee Harris, who we drafted in this draft, and the guy you're talking about, Dan, Jalen Waddle. And we got back Saquon Barkley, Keenan Allen, and Tyler Higbee, who's a tight end that I like a lot this year. Not someone I've liked in previous years, but I like a lot this year with that situation. But
and that's that same team that we have Herbert at quarterback. So Ed Keenan Allen there getting the hookup.
We have Herbert at quarterback.
Was from a previous trade we made. So we had that was last year. We made it was Prescott and a pick when Prescott was injured for Herbert.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Yep.
And so we've made two big trades here. But listen, I thought it was a blockbuster trade. For me, my team was somewhat in the middle, and I had Keenan Allen kind of past his age apex and Saquon Barkley, at the top of his value. And it was a chance to kind of reshape my roster. I had already traded Noah Riddell, a later first, like the 108, and my 2022 first to move up to take Travis Etienne at the 104. So I had already added Etienne. I gone kind of aggressive to get Etienne, who I'm high on still, despite craziness out of Jacksonville camp. I'm very high on his talent and his ability as a receiver. And JD and Dan and I kind of talked a little bit, and they'd made two picks. So my hold up was a little bit more Devonta Smith than Jalen Waddle. I don't dislike Waddle. I have him on my team now. So Andrew, I love him. If you want to trade for him, don't listen to this.
He's awesome.
But yeah, I like Waddle, but I think that Devonta Smith is going to have more of a clear role. So after we went back and forth, and I'm very high on Irv Smith, and I'm really stuck at tight end in this league, and I get a chance to get a young tight end with two very good prospects for two guys who are top-notch redraft guys for you guys this year. So hopefully the trade is beneficial to both people. I think you guys are in a position to go for the title this year, and I'm hopefully in the position to go for it in a year.
Yeah, and that was totally it. I mean, we had, Dan, behind JT, we had basically AJ Dillon, who we thought might be, a good kind of RB2 there behind JT, but obviously he's now stuck behind Jones, Elijah Mitchell, Jeffrey Wilson, Mike Boone, guys, fill in bye week guys, your favorite, LaMichael Pirine. And then at tight end, we had TJ Hawk, who we're very high on. We have Gronk on our bench. So adding Higbee, as opposed to Irv, as much as you and I like Irv a lot more, the trade-off was good. I mean, we have Irv on a couple other rosters together, I believe.
Yeah.
But I mean, getting Barkley to pair up with JT for me, and then adding Allen to stack with Herbert was just, no-brainer for me. And then we had made for a move for CeeDee Lamb, I believe was earlier in the offseason, was it? For CeeDee Lamb, or was it maybe the end of last year or something like that? But
yeah, it was early in the offseason. We traded away Kamara for Kamara and some pieces for Lamb and some pieces.
Yeah. So no, I think it rounds up our starting lineup really nicely, and that's kind of, as much as it's kind of frowned upon in fantasy land to look at your starting lineup. That's the way I build my FFPC rosters, man. I want studs up there, and then I try to add as many more as I can on my bench, and it's done well for me so far on this platform. So that was a nice little trade, Theo. That was well done, win-win.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
It was a nice little calculator trade. So we both look at it, and we come away kind of happy with that one. It wasn't, and it's an aggressive move for both of us. You guys give up two young guys, I give up probably my two best players. So it's we'll see how it works out. For me, a couple trades I made, I actually had some success trading before the draft process. I made a move in a 500 of mine. I actually split with a partner, my buddy Ray, and I split two teams in the FPC. The rest of them I kind of do all myself. And we pivoted off of J.K. Dobbins. I traded Dobbins for the 102, when we already had the 101. So I ended up getting Pitts and Najee Harris on that team. And I think Najee right now is safer than Dobbins. I mean, certainly the receiving upside, it's no question who's going to catch more passes next year. And in terms of what's behind him, Najee's got a lot less behind him than Gus over in Baltimore. So I'm happy I made that trade. I have Dobbins on some other teams. It's not like I'm against Dobbins, but I thought that was an aggressive trade I made that I was happy with how it worked out. I had a similar to Dan's situation. I had a 101, a 107, and a 111 on the orphan I purchased, and I traded the 111, the 107, and Cooper Kupp for the 102. So I paid quite a lot, but I got the 102, and in that league I was able to again go with the Kyle Pitts and Najee Harris combo, which I was really happy with how that turned out. Kupp is funny. I mean, Kupp could have a fantastic year, but he's getting a little older. And, you talk about the 107, the 111. I'm not going to get anybody close to Najee Harris with that. And I think if we made that trade again, if I offered that trade today where I'd offer Cooper Kupp and whoever I drafted at the 107 and the 111 for Najee Harris, I would get laughed at if I offered that. It's kind of like the mystery of what you're going to get at 107 and 111, those first rounders. It was I don't think he should have accepted that trade, but maybe the guy loves Cooper Kupp. And then in one league where I had won the league last year, but I had a 102, I was able to get Najee Harris at the 102, and this was one where I did not take Pitts because I have Darren Waller on this team. So I went with Harris, and it's a team that I have Jonathan Taylor and Alvin Kamara, and I was able to add Harris, and then I made the trade where I traded my 2022 first to get Elijah Moore at the 110 when he fell to the 110. Which I would do over and over again. If I have a team I think is going to win the title and I have a chance to get Elijah Moore for next year's, 112, 111, 109, 110, I'll do that every time. So those trades I was really happy with. I was happy with all of those trades.
It's funny, you guys are all kind of going the other way on Dobbins, and as much as I've talked about how I've stayed away, I've actually traded him away in leagues in the past, especially last year, just trying to be more competitive for that season. I'm turning the corner on him. I think for a rookie, man, you talk about Harris, I kind of like his situation a lot better going into 2021 when you look at the offense, the offensive line, the fact that what he showed us as a rookie and how that could evolve in 2021. Whereas Harris, I mean, I have Harris. I like Harris. Dan, we drafted him. I drafted him in my 102s. Just play devil's advocate. I mean, there are some concerns there, with the offense, Ben, the offensive line. Yeah, he's going to get touches. I like both guys. I'm just letting you know. Yeah. I'm turning the corner on Dobbins. I made a big move for Dobbins actually in a league where I sent, and you guys maybe disagree, I sent Evans and a 2022 first for Dobbins and a third in a league where I literally had Gibson and no one else really at the running back position. For me to get a young stud running back, I don't mind that trade at all. I liked it a lot, actually.
Yeah, to me, I mean, I like Dobbins, and I think, one of the things that, you can look at him as kind of a Nick Chubb a little bit. He's a fantastic runner, and he can break one from anywhere, which is a very valuable skill to have for a running back.
There's nothing wrong with that, right? There's nothing wrong.
No, nothing at all wrong with that. And, it's just that, one of the things that bugs me about Chubb and it bugs me about Dobbins, and it probably shouldn't bug me as much as it does, is I look at both those guys and I know that they have a lot of untapped receiving potential, right? And, I don't see the path to them to tap that in the near future. So I keep looking at it. Well, it's capped. Their upside is capped. Their upside is capped. But at the same time, this is a guy who can, rattle off a 70-yard touchdown run, at any moment, assuming that they're at least 70 yards away from the end zone. Sometimes it might be only a 60 or 50-yard touchdown. So, but that's kind of where I'm at on him. I don't hate Dobbins, but there are just players, if I can get Dobbins for Gibson, or if I can get, something like that, I'm going to make that trade.
I got one more little one, just talking super flex. I think I see it. I see the mistakes, and I saw it in this draft. I mean, guys, you can't let quarterbacks fall like this. And this is not to brag, 2-time champion back-to-back, the Dynasty Premier League. Shout out to Matt Hicks, who runs that. The tier 1 champ too, not tier 3, tier 2, just saying. And didn't have any picks until 204 and 209. And funny enough, the guy at 201 reaches out to me and he says, any interest in 201? I go and look, thinking I'm looking at Carter, Terrace Marshall, and I see Mac Jones sitting there. And for me to get a starting quarterback, he's not my favorite out of this year's class, but he's going to New England. Opportunity sweet. I couldn't pass that up. So I actually went to Dan. I asked, my little crew what they thought about the move. Initially, I didn't want to move the 204, 209. And Dan, you felt the same. You said if you can keep that 204 and still get 201. So I tried to, send 209, 305, and like my 22 second or something like that, which he didn't want. So I ended up moving it 204, 209 for Mac Jones. For me is a win in a super flex tight end league. Anything to add? You guys see that in super flex? How do you guys feel about getting your quarterback? And I mean, that's the cheapest they're going to be, is the line, the narrative. And I think that's a fact. Yeah.
And how is he going to lose value over the next year? I mean, unless he just, gets thrown in there and he absolutely sucks. But, I guess I just probably don't see that happening with Belichick. He's either not going to get thrown in there or he's not going to suck.
In a super flex, I mean, I know we just talked about Mac Jones. I mean, talking about maybe like the next tier column, like the Trask, the Mon, the Davis Mills. I did not get enough of Davis Mills, and I'm kicking myself over that because, like, I think about it now and, like, look, play it out. Name your pick. Okay, 212, 306, whatever it is. The second Davis Mills gets drafted,
I got him at 305 in that one draft. That was like my dream draft, man. I got everyone in that draft.
Yep.
Name where he gets drafted. The second you draft him, the iron price gets higher. Like the second that pick is known, can you then flip the 306 and the next year's whatever? Can you flip the 306? Like, I'm talking like whatever the pick after that is, right? Like, would you take the 306 plus like whatever for Davis Mills? Like, I mean, it depends on the whatever, but like the second you take that quarterback, the Mon, the Mills, the Trask, maybe they don't have value this year, but like, look, large benches, maybe even FFPC. I think there's a lot of value. The second they get drafted, they immediately have like a little bit of this like equity built in, and especially on Mills, 5-star prospect. I mean, you've got the Tyrod Taylor anecdotal factor. Goes to Cleveland. Baker takes over. Goes to Chargers. He gets stabbed in the chest, and Herbert takes over. Okay, who knows what kind of weird tragedy is going to happen to him in Houston? Point being, Mills. The Tyrod Taylor anecdotal factor means nothing here, but not very statistical at all. The point is that Mills, I think, is going to only gain that value over time. And you asked the question, so I'm telling you, he's the one I am kicking myself about. And look, maybe he sucks. Maybe he's, name your crappy Houston Texans quarterback. Maybe he's in a long line of those guys outside of Deshaun Watson. I'm kicking myself for not getting access to him more often as part of my drafts, especially in these super flexes. Now, one quarterback, who cares? Super flexes, I should have taken way more shots at him in that second and third round over some of these other rookie fever guys or some of these other veterans that were sitting there.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I have a little bit of regret that we didn't take him in the pros versus Joes. We were sitting at 301 and 303, and Marauders traded into the 302 and took Mills.
Oh yeah.
Dan, at that 212, I mentioned I was happy to get Diami Brown at 212 as a champion. It was between Diami and Davis Mills. I went back and forth. I didn't know. I mean, that's the league I have Allen and Herbert, literally only two quarterbacks. And of course, I'm an idiot. So I only came out and drafted two quarterbacks. I went back and forth on Damian Davis, and so I think that you're hitting on it. Like that is the spot to take him. If I was thinking about 212, you're thinking about him at the 2-0 or 3-0 whatever, and then you end up going at the 302 with a trade up. Like that is the spot I should have taken him, and I'm just kicking myself for that.
Same, because he was somebody that we were kind of thinking about. Okay, well, we need to get a tight end here, and we saw Amari Rodgers sitting there, and we're like, well, we should maybe get Amari Rodgers, and then Ferkser. I'm thinking, well, maybe Mills will drop a little bit, just because of the shorter rosters, but no such luck. Somebody was definitely scoping on him. That just goes to show again, if you feel like it's time for him to go, you probably better pop him now rather than holding off and hoping he drops.
Guys, Theo's playing Mr. Mom. He's sweating over there. I see he's looking at the clock. He's got to get to bed. No, man, I'm just teasing. But look, we've gone a $1:45, man. Let's face it, we could go on another 3 hours easily. There's stuff we haven't even touched on yet. But let's chop it off here. Let's end it here. I think we've dropped a lot of goodness tonight, guys. If you're still listening, of course you are. All the goodness that's been dropped. Make sure you smash the like, the subscribe, share this with your friends. Theo, give us. Why don't we do this before share anything you want to share that you have coming out? Talk about. Like you and Andrew have been dropping all kinds of goodness on the GOAT District. Remind the people about that. But give us a little rookie hot take before we close this out.
I think Elijah Moore could have 70 receptions as a rookie. I think that it's going to happen right away for him in New York, and I think they're excited about him. I think that the path is there. I think that they're going to lose a lot of games, and I think that he's going to be a garbage time all-star, and I think that he'll end up with 70 receptions. And to double down on Pat Freiermuth, I think a year from now he'll be ahead of Cole Kmet. And he'll be ahead of Adam Troutman, last year's rookie tight ends, in terms of Dynasty startup capital.
I like it.
And then we're doing our shout outs too, or we're just doing our predictions, JD?
Yeah. Do your hot take, and then we're gonna close this out. So just give your share any goodness you want to share.
So this was awesome. I really enjoyed this show. We've been preparing for these drafts, and I talked so much to JD and Dan and Andrew about these rookies, and it's so great to kind of rehash and see where your guys' heads were at when you're at your drafts. I really enjoyed the show. You can find me on Twitter at the OG Fantasy. You can find me here in the GOAT District. Shelly and I have part 3 coming up of our Triflexin show. We put together a monster 1250, and we're going to talk about the last 10 round picks in our part 3 that should be dropping shortly. And then you can find my writing on playprofiler.com, breakoutfind.com. I have a couple articles coming up. And yeah, this was awesome.
Thanks, Theo. Andrew, give it, brother.
Trey Sermon, week 12 on RB12.
You can't handle the truth.
He's gonna get the total Nick Chubb treatment, and I'm thinking dynasty value, and I'm thinking all of my tournament teams where I took Trey Sermon absolutely way too early than I should have, which is a beautiful segue into what we're doing on the GOAT District Podcast Network on Half a Million Billies, which for whatever reason you two let me have control of. Huge mistake, but we're doing a great job over there. We've got 2 in the bank, one with at Todd from PA, Todd Burrows, and one with FF Muzio, Billy Muzio. I thought both of those were beautiful. Got roasted in the first one, and I loved it. Learn at my expense. And the second one, we had a great time commiserating over Billy and I's co-surgeries. But yeah, doing a lot of good stuff. I can't believe you guys let me be involved in the GOAT District Podcast Network. Have a great time. Theo and I, as you mentioned, the Triflexin. And then, yeah, I'm just maybe my bold prediction is just more self-serving than anything, but I love Trey Sermon getting the Nick Chubb treatment this year to help you get your equity later in the year. So do the thing that Dan's going to do and let somebody else draft Trey Sermon high, and then you go in and pick him off in week 7, 8. and watch them explode later in the 2021.
And Dan, before I pass it to you, I just want to, you mentioned Fantasy Data and our friend Billy over there on their channel. So go check out their channel. We got a nice little partnership with them. Just some awesome content that complements really well with what we're offering here, whether it's Triflexin, Ballin, quarter milli Billy, half milli Billy, full milli Billy, Goat District. We got commissioner evaluation. I mean, guys, we got all kinds of, we got you covered. You want to win in fantasy, you better be signed up to this site. Subscribe, smash it. Dan, let the flow go, my friend. Give us your hot take and a little farewell.
Yeah, this is a really tough year to have a lot of really good hot takes on. I'm going to go out and I'm going to say that when all is said and done, 3 years from now, Javonte Williams is going to be the player that everybody wants over Harris, over Etienne, over Sermon, over Michael Carter, over anybody else in this draft. I think Williams is going to be the guy. With Aaron Rodgers dishing him the ball, I don't know if that'll happen, but I just love the talent there. I love the youth. I think he's got a lot going for him, and we really never touched on him tonight. But he was one of those players I kept trying to get to, and I probably should have taken him a couple times where I took ETN just to kind of mix things up a little bit more. That's probably my biggest regret on rookie drafts is that I reached down just a little bit, reach down for a player that I believe in almost as much as ETN. So, and you can catch me at Overhyped Sleeper. I'm not doing a ton on Twitter right now. I've got a bunch of things kicking my ass in real life. Not in a major way, but just enough to keep me off Twitter. But I'm definitely responsive on there. If you interact with me, I will interact with you. You just won't see a lot of stuff originating from me at this time. But, definitely if you got questions, anything like that, one that will help in best ball, will help in dynasty drafts, I'll be more than happy to help you out.
And that's why you tune into the district, man, because even when he's busy, the Overhyped Sleeper makes time for us at least once a week, if not twice on a good week. But guys, all three of these guys, like I said, if you're in fantasy football and you want to win, these are the guys to follow. This is the channel to be on. I'm going to say this: look at your roster and be honest about it, but pay attention to how many of these rookies you have, because sometimes we think we're years away from turning this team over. Some of these guys, the hype's going to build between now and the start of the season. And I love taking these guys. I already went to Dan and asked him which rookies can I move off our rosters, because if you can get the guy that you're hoping the rookie can be right now, go out and do it, and you're a lot closer to winning your league than you think. And I think that's something that a lot of guys do the whole rebuild thing, and they think that it's like a 2-3 year process. A lot of times you're a lot closer than you think. So that's my quick tip. If there is one, my hot take is Trevor Lawrence is not the rookie quarterback one at the end of this season. I have a feeling one of these other guys is going to pop. And otherwise, we didn't talk about our friends over at Viridian. We got some goodness right here. Dan, I know you're rocking the True North. I got the hat on. Check out ViridianGlobal.com/collections/Goat District. All the goat gear you want: hats, toques, t-shirts, long sleeves, championship shirts, you name it, we got it. Check it out. Comfortable, high quality. Friends over at Dynasty Depot, guys. We talk about the FFPC. You're building dynasties. Go on there and sell, buy, and trade those rosters. It brings a whole new dimension to your fantasy football, especially if you're in Dynasty. My fantasy football, we talked about it, guys. myffpc.com. Just the best site to play fantasy football in any format, and we appreciate their support. We appreciate you guys hanging with us tonight for $154 of pure golden goodness. Be safe, be good, and we'll check you all later.
Goat district, you know the Pope listens. Dynasty, our religion, for the blokes missing. On all of these trades, on all of these plays, on all of these grades. By the end of the day, y'all getting played. So, what you gonna do next? Try to fill up that flex? Send the homie a text? That trash offer's the best? You try to make it complex, then they text you back. Now all of a sudden they don't make any sense. Broaden your horizons, boy. Dynasty's not for the Simons, boy. These trades not for consignment, boy. Respect your opponent, y'all some piranhas, boy. This my advice, from me to you. Open up your cute little podcast queue. Search up GOAT District, my dude. Pop it in your ear, man, y'all know what to do. It's the... And I always be trading. And I always be trading. And I always be trading. Y'all try to betray them, but first you gotta bait them. Fish.